And she has championed military reform and rooting out corruption. Top lawmakers and political advisors are focusing on both issues as they work to shape China's future. CGTN's current affairs commentator Victor Gao is in Beijing, where the annual meeting is taking place. Victor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
President Xi Jinping launching his anti-corruption campaign in 2012. Since then, more than 1 million have been punished for corruption, as you know. President Xi stated that the anti-corruption battle must go even deeper, though. Do you get a sense those goals are being met?
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, indeed. Ever since President Xi Jinping became the top leader in China, he has launched this anti-corruption campaign with greater intensity, with greater, wider scope than probably any recent Chinese leaders have done in recent history. And I think the results are quite satisfactory, mainly because right now in China, we all take corruption as one of the serious problems, and the government and the system spare no effort in leaving no stone unturned in hunting down the corrupt officials. And I think the anti-corruption campaign has moved on to another stage. That is, rather than purely dealing with individual corrupt officials, now the emphasis is shifting more and more on setting up more institutional checks and balances so that government officials, party officials cannot even commit such crimes of corruption with such great magnitude and scope. And I think this is actually a very important but also very difficult transition to make, mainly because you are talking about making amendments and changes to the institutional distribution of power so that eventually, I believe, that the government and party officials will not be able to hold so much power in their hands without checks and balances. And I think this is actually one of the root causes of corruption in China. If you put people in such position of great power without checks and balances, even an angel can be turned into a devil relatively soon. Therefore, I think the anti-corruption campaign needs to continue, and it also needs to change in the nature of the anti-corruption campaign from dealing with individual corruption cases to institutional reform.
Well, the anti-corruption campaign is focused on rooting out tigers and flies. Can you explain what this is and why it's so important?
Oh, definitely. I think, as I just now mentioned, in China, most of these corruption cases are based on taking money, transferring interests, and womanizing, for example, luxurious, excessive wining and dining. And in many cases, these problems are all combined together to form a small interest group where you have a bribe giving and a bribe taking, for example, and all this is at the cost of the public interest. You have nepotism in many cases, and friends and relatives of important leaders enriching themselves at the expense of the public interest. And I think in almost every corruption cases, without exception, the bribery is a major problem. And I think we need to come up with, first of all, much stiffer and tougher rules against bribery. And also, I think we need to have a whistleblowing system like that in the United States, where ordinary citizens or staff members of a particular institution or company can blow whistle to the regulators without fear of being punished, for example. And in this case, I think the government regulators will have more eyes and ears in the society to have these corruption cases reported in a timely manner so that we can stem up the corruption case probably from the very beginning of the process.
Victor Gao, thank you for that. Live in Beijing. Always great to see you.
Thank you.